Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Experience Maker Show. I'm your host, Dan Gingiss, customer experience keynote speaker, author, podcaster, and coach, and excited to have you here for another fantastic episode. Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that I have a brand new book coming out in September. It has the same name as this show. It's called The Experience Maker: How to Create Remarkable Experiences That Your Customers Can't Wait to Share. I can't wait to share this with the world. I'm so excited for it. I know you're going to love it. It is available now for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Walmart, wherever you buy your books. Please go ahead and order it. And I'm going to put up one banner here real quick. If you order it today, just send me your receipt and I will be happy to send you an advanced ebook copy so you can start reading and learning ahead of the competition and get a head start. All right, enough of the commercial break here. I am so excited to introduce you to a guy that I kind of met by happenstance. He was definitely persistent on LinkedIn, and we got a couple of meetings together and realized that we had a shared love for customer experience. Had some really interesting conversations since then, and he has started recently at a new gig that I am so excited about, and I think he's in such a really cool space. So Tony Amante Schepers is the Director of Operations and Customer Experience at a company called Curbside Kitchen. And I have to say, when I was practicing this before, I kept saying Curbside Chicken because we're going to show you a video in a minute. I think they served some chicken, so my mind was elsewhere, but it's Curbside Kitchen. And Tony, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, Dan. Good to see you.
Great to have you on. Would love to just start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your background. And then when we get to Curbside Kitchen, we'll pop over to the video.
Sure. Well, thanks again for having me. I feel like I'm standing among giants looking at all the other people you've interviewed, so I appreciate you putting me up there. I guess I would describe myself as a kind of a professional storyteller. I really aim to maximize the customer satisfaction, retention, and growth of a company through the journey transformation and product and service adoption. That's kind of a wonky way of saying I look through the eyes of the consumer, I look through the eyes of the employee and the owners of a company to make it all kind of meld together. I love creating customer and employee value and hopefully strengthening a company's market portfolio. I kind of consider myself out of the 4 stages of a business, from growth, introduction, growth, maturity, and decline, in that kind of growth stage where I enjoy working with startups, especially kind of in their year 3 or 4, where they're in that sweet spot of ready to expand, to become more scalable, which is really exciting for me. And my background varies from many industries: HR, payroll, international education, studying intern abroad. I worked as an external consultant for Marriott in their digital consulting department for a while, and here I am at Curbside Kitchen, trying to bring food trucks to commercial buildings and residential buildings alike.
That's awesome. Before we get into Curbside, I just want to point out, or dig a little deeper on something that you mentioned: the different stages of a startup. In today's world, given how important customer experience is, let's say, obviously we want startups to be thinking from a CX perspective from the very beginning, but sure, is there a time where it's like, I don't want to say too late, but like you're going in at 3 or 4 years, if they haven't been thinking customer in a customer-centric way since then, aren't they already in trouble?
And they probably wouldn't be in business at that point if they weren't considering it from the get-go. Great question. You know, startups kind of come out of sort of this fire of desire to make things right. A CEO could see a need and say, I have a solution, let's see if it sticks. But that need comes out of knowing the customer. So if a business is still in business at year 3, 4, 5, they really have started from the very beginning of thinking of the customer. At the Curbside Kitchen example, we have 3 customers. We have the food trucks, of course. We have the property managers at commercial and real estate residential buildings. And then we have the customer ordering from the app itself. So if you haven't defined the customer by the time you're swinging out the gate, you're probably going to be lost.
For sure. That's kind of what I thought you'd say. So I wanted to put that out there. So I'm going to ask you about Curbside Kitchen. See, I almost But let's start by showing our audience a video that you have shared with us. And let me see if I can make this work.
Truck, yeah! Curbside Kitchen believes in connecting people over a shared love of food and community. Think about the array of culinary options that can be trucked in daily to where your tenants and residents live, work, and play. The need for innovative programming, building a community, and differentiating your properties is more important than ever.
It's a very competitive environment right now for attracting new tenants and retaining existing tenants. Landlords are looking for ways to differentiate their product. We've partnered with Curbside to create that different experience. They've become almost an extension of our organization where they have a real great understanding of what our strategy is and how to execute.
Our team has reimagined the food truck experience. Our platform allows our landlord partners to integrate food trucks as an on-demand amenity. We de-risk and remove all complexities, stress, and logistics from property managers, having to schedule and market food trucks to building locations. Our food trucks are vetted, inspected, and insured. Using our platform, tenants can order from the comfort of their home, office, or use our Curbside mobile app, all curated specifically for your building. Tenants will see menus, schedules, and receive notifications that allow for pre-orders and real-time ordering.
Since COVID, people have become really uncomfortable, and everybody, of course, wants to stay safe. So one of the nice things about being able to order through the app, normally when I go to a food truck, I have to go up to the window and I have to wait for the food. I have to stand there while they're making it, and I'm surrounded by people and I don't know how safe it is. So it's really nice to be able to just get in the app, order the food. It tells me when it's ready and I can just go there, pick it up, and get out.
That's not all. Curbside Kitchen plays a key role in elevating and enhancing the tenant and resident experience by integrating into your building portal. Whether it's your own proprietary software or a third party, such as HQO or Cove, Curbside Kitchen can seamlessly integrate into your technology, enhancing the digital experience never tasted so good.
It's great. We're in a food desert here. There's a shopping center across the street, but their offerings are pretty limited. With Curbside, we have food trucks show up to our front door, basically a gourmet restaurant at about the same price. What's not to like?
Curbside Kitchen is selling the sizzle, and the food trucks are firing up the griddle. The hottest amenity for food delivery, right to the curb. Reach out to hello@curbsidekitchen.com to learn more about our culinary suite of options.
I'm going to take a break, go get one of those sandwiches that lady was eating at the end. So a couple of things that really stood out to me about this video. The first was that the landlord was talking about differentiating his product. And I was thinking to myself, the first thing I thought was, man, I never really thought of a landlord as having a product, but of course they do, right? Their building is one of many different buildings, and whether it's got tenants, consumer tenants, or it's got business tenants, they got to offer things, amenities that maybe the guy next door doesn't do. So talk to me about how you work with buildings like that and help them differentiate.
Before COVID, as I would say 2020 BC, all of the buildings were exactly the same, where you would go there 100% occupancy, you would go to the cafeteria, you talk among your friends, you go back to your office, you work, you go home. And we were doing fine then because everyone was looking for something different. A commercial building or even a residential building was looking for a way to stand out. It's not just the stale food at the cafeteria anymore, people want options. COVID comes, we flip over quite strongly to the residential buildings because no one was in commercial. How can residential buildings differentiate themselves, keep their tenants, their renters there? Now, as we get out of COVID, we're looking to continue our expansion back into commercial. Finding ways to bring tenants back to the office building is an uphill battle for a lot of commercial units. How can they differentiate? A food truck there, guaranteed every Wednesday from 12 to 2. And you know in advance what it's going to be. You know in advance what the food is. You can order in advance up to 48 hours. And you can do it completely contactless, which is awesome. And you have this sort of, this routine that you're going to have X food truck there every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at noon, and that's going to make that office complex stand out more and more. So as you know, I read a statistic, Dan, Microsoft, they interviewed some 30,000 employees and employers, and a good 40% this year of employees plan on ditching their current employer and going to a different employer. Why? Because they want to work from home part-time. They want to have some more freedom. But to keep those at the company or to entice those to yours, why not offer a food truck every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and have some variety there? So that's an interesting pitch that a office complex can give to companies that are looking to either move offices or hopefully have them stay.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember back in the day when I worked in an office, especially when I worked downtown, you know, you almost get into this cycle of the 3 or 4 places you go to for lunch that are near you that you can walk to quickly and get back to your desk. And so I love the idea of lunch coming to you, and also of being able to shuffle it up a little bit, right? Now you don't just have the 2 or 3 or 4 choices. You've got a couple new ones coming all the time, which I think is great. How do people feel about ordering from food trucks? I know in some areas, like, for example, I went to school in Philly, and Philly's known for its food truck scene, so it was very comfortable ordering from food trucks. But then in some cities, they're not as prevalent, and maybe people are a little more suspicious or cautious. How are you finding that depending on where you're going?
There are a huge amount of food deserts in this country where you have office complexes 20, 30, 40 miles outside of a city and nowhere to eat. A food truck comes in and, oh my God, you suddenly have options. You don't have to bring a sack lunch. When you go to an office in the city, you certainly have options, which is true, but sometimes you don't want to go walking too terribly far. Sometimes you want to know in advance that food will be there and the type of food that will be there. Eating is a shared experience, and to make it such in the work environment is something that we kind of, you know, hope to bring back to the office. Let's have a meal. Let's have the chicken at noon from 7 Stars Wings food truck, and to know that it's going to be there at 12:30. You go with your buddies from work. It's there. You pre-order. You walk out. The food's ready at the time you want it there. No cash. It's all through the app. You're good to go. Those are unique experiences that we hope to continue at office complexes and residential units alike.
So, talk to me then about, you mentioned that you have multiple customers. So talk to me, let's start with the end user. What does that experience look like for them? And I know, you know, we saw in the video that they're maybe ordering on the app and all that sort of thing, but I'd love for you to describe it.
Yeah. Well, you can easily download the app. Just go to Curbside Kitchen in your app store, download it, no cost, of course. And when you open it up, you can type in your location and you can see if there's a food truck on our platform that's nearby. If there is, you click where that food truck is. You can see the schedule of when it will be arriving and where. And within a 48-hour window of the arrival of that food truck, let's say at your office on a Tuesday, you can, let's say on a Thursday, you can start ordering on a Tuesday. Place your order, click, click, click. Customers are charged a small convenience fee, 99 cents. You can choose the time for pickup, and then you can also tip the food truck person in advance as well. You go there, and within a 15 minute window, your food is ready at the time you asked for it to be picked up. It's contactless, it is guaranteed, and it kind of creates a routine. I think a lot of people, the customer, the end user, badly wants a routine after a year of uncertainty. You know, Curbside Kitchen really does bring that routine to them.
That's a great point. I want to share with you an image that I usually have in my keynote presentations, and it actually is of a food truck. It's maybe perhaps my favorite food truck, but of course I don't even remember where it was, or I mean I remember where it was, but I don't remember what they served. But this was at the Inbound conference in Boston, and one of the things that Inbound did, it's a huge conference. And one of the things they did was bring in about 24 food trucks in order to serve all of the attendees for lunch. And so it was really clever. You got a ticket and you could go use the ticket at any food truck. Well, I saw this one, and you know I love signage in terms of customer
Yes.
experience. I saw this one and said, okay, I have got to go and try this restaurant, this food truck, simply because of the funny sign. Now, I did pay with a credit card, I should point out, but I think it's interesting that even a food truck, right, that has to differentiate from other food trucks because oftentimes they're parked next to each other or what have you. And do you see other interesting examples of how the trucks themselves are able to stand out, or is it just really focused on the quality of the food?
Curbside Kitchen modernizes a very antiquated business model. Before a company like Curbside Kitchen came along, the food truck industry was a bit of a wild, wild west where trucks would just go anywhere and vend anywhere and find a place to go. And maybe it's a good sales, maybe it's not. It's very expensive to prep food, drive a honking truck with gas mileage not that great to a location you hope to make money at. And so Curbside Kitchen comes along and we harness all of these opportunities under one umbrella. We do the logistics, we do the vetting of the food truck, we do the license, we vet their licensing, we make sure that there's a guaranteed revenue there for the food trucks in partnership with the commercial or residential building. So while we ask our foodies, the end user, not to pay with whiskey, as your sign showed, paying with a credit card is super fast and super easy. But again, before it was just a bit of a wild, wild west situation. And we're kind of harnessing all of this chaos under one platform to make it super easy for all three verticals.
Cool. Well, I guess it depends on the type of whiskey, right? If it's really good whiskey, then maybe.
Debatable.
We have a question from our viewers, Lisa Sedlak. Thank you so much, Lisa, for being such a valued and consistent viewer of the show. Lisa says, how do you deal with local laws with food trucks, and how do strict regulations affect how you communicate with customers? You don't want to speak negatively about the locality, but you need to be honest with customers. Great question, Lisa. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. First off, Curbside Kitchen is not a government entity. We don't ensure that. Well, let me rephrase. We take our time to find what rules and regulations are there. We ensure that the food trucks have the correct licenses, that they are vetted by us, that they have the safety needs there. We have a partnership with a very large winery in the Virginia area, and every Saturday there's live music and it's basically a festival. And we vet the trucks that go there, but we have to make sure that they're up to code. We have to make sure that they have the licenses. We have to make sure that they are able to vend in that county. And not just county, but you have to consider state regulations, health codes, OSHA, et cetera, at the federal level. We do our due diligence to make sure that those food trucks are thoroughly vetted. We receive a copy of their certificate of insurance, make sure that that is all up to date. And then we also have an umbrella insurance policy with Curbside Kitchen, which I don't know any of our competitors offering. So if something were to happen, it then taps into our insurance as well. So to answer your question, Lisa, it's a lot of due diligence. There is a checklist beyond belief that we have, which is what the food truck, which is what the end user, which is what the property management company is paying for to make sure that we are doing our due diligence to make sure the food truck is covered. Great question.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. It's a great question. So what's hot right now in food trucks? What are people either looking for, or what are some of the more innovative, unique offerings that you're seeing?
It depends on the event. We have a few one-off events. We work with the Asian American Society in Maryland, and they have a big weekend event. So obviously they want some food trucks with Asian cuisine. We work with a food truck called Aloha Poke. They do very, very well. Poke bowl. Who doesn't want a poke bowl? I mean, it's delicious.
I want one right now.
You can get chicken on that one, Dan. Let's see, God, what else? We have dessert trucks. Sometimes a residential unit wants to celebrate and say thank you to the residents. So we have dessert trucks, ice cream. We worked with Capital One Bank, where they're headquartered in Virginia, and they had an event over weekends called Pups and Pints, where we worked in partnership with a nonprofit brewery, where we brought a brewery truck, a dessert truck, and barbecue truck, chicken wing truck to a parking lot where dogs were there and humans, of course, and they were celebrating this Pups and Pints to get together fundraiser where people could adopt pups. So it really depends on the event, and it depends on the office complex itself and their demographic, which is what we look at too.
That's cool. That's really neat. So tell me a little bit more then about your role. You're the Director of Operations and Customer Experience. What does that entail? And I ask because a lot of our viewers are in this space every day, not
Right.
the food truck space, but they're working on customer experience every day. They're implementers. Tell me the kinds of projects that you end up working on or the things that you're thinking about every day.
I was hired when there wasn't ever at this company a director of operations and customer experience. And my first job, day one, was to take an assessment of the current state of affairs. What processes are working, which ones aren't, which employees need a leg up, which ones are doing great and are not recognized. You know, we're a prop tech company, property technology. So is the technology there? I'm not 100% techie, but I can speak it and I get it. So I come in sort of with my management consultant hat on as a sort of outsider and just ask a lot of questions. That's really what I did first and foremost. Then after charting out what the current state is, I was interviewing every employee and asking, you know, what was the line in Office Space? What would you say you do here? And so I asked that, you know, in a very kind way, just to make sure we had the right people in the right positions, to make sure
so
that
you're basically one of the Bobs. The Bobs.
I think there was a bald one there as well. So I was making sure that we had the right people on the bus. And we knew that we needed to get some more people on that bus. So after getting a state of affairs in order, I then charted out future state. This is where we should be by X date. And after that got in place, I got buy-in from all the departments, the CEO, investors, and I said, this is where we need to be. Let's make it happen. Here's the potential cost, and here's how long it will take. And that's kind of where we are now. We're in that transition phase of having gotten all the right people on the bus. Now, let's get these processes and procedures in place. And next step will be really focusing much more on the customer experience. Is the app working? Is it not? If it isn't, what are the experiences that they're having? Are they able to contact us quickly and easily? We use Zendesk for issues and we respond within 7 minutes, 24/7. We are there to make sure that we're learning from our mistakes so that we can make it better. And that's always through the eyes of the customer.
Yeah, that's awesome. You have another fan here. Christine loves Aloha Poke. So do I. I mean, man, if we would have thought ahead, we would have just had Poke for everybody in the show. It'd be a great experience. Thank you, Christine, for being here and for commenting as well. We're heading the end of our time, Tony, but I want to ask you just to follow up on that last question. How are you, especially as you were responsible for kind of starting up the CX function, how are you measuring success? What are you looking at? What kind of metrics are you looking at?
Tons of metrics. I don't think any startup, any company today can be successful, get more investors, sell if that's their goal, if they're not following data. I really enjoy, I'll answer that question in 1 second, but I really enjoy every Friday writing what I call the Weekly Roundup. I got this advice from a dear mentor of mine, Mary Kramer, former publisher at Crane's Detroit News. She said, Tony, go across all departments, ask what they're doing, ask their pain points, ask their successes, and write it on a Friday Weekly Roundup. Part of that roundup at Curbside Kitchen that I include are data, our metrics. We follow how many orders were done in the past 7 days. We follow how many people have downloaded our app, both on Android and iOS. We follow how many, the revenue made per truck. We follow revenue made per location. We have all of this data. We have 15, 20 data points. And as we continue creating better experiences, that data that we harness will make those experiences better. Specifically, we're coming out very soon with an AI platform on our app that actually recommends a truck to a commercial building or residential based on previous sales, based on demand, based on if that truck was there in the past 2-3 weeks. It's tons and tons of data. No company can exist today without tracking it.
Yeah, that is great. That is fantastic. Well, thank you, Tony, for making us all very hungry. As soon as I turn off the camera, now I got to go eat lunch, and it probably won't be as exciting of a lunch as if I were visiting one of your trucks. For everybody else, please go check out Curbside Chicken. And if, God, I did it again. Kitchen. I swear I'm not doing this on purpose.
Kitchen. You can't do the chicken without the kitchen.
That's right, exactly. Curbside Kitchen, and hopefully you've got them setting up some trucks nearby your home or office. Tony, thanks so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the invite, Dan.
My pleasure. And thank you for being here as well. As always, really appreciate it. Next week, we are inviting in Artem Gladkik, who is the founder and CEO of Signum.ai. So we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence in sales and marketing. So I think that should be very interesting. Anytime we're dealing with artificial intelligence, it affects the customer experience one way or the other. And so we're going to talk to Artem about that. So thank you again for being here this week and every week on the Experience Maker Show. We're here Thursdays at noon Eastern. We'll see you next week. Have a great rest of the week and a terrific weekend.